What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Berm, and today we are talking more about the Japan World Championships, hacking, genning as a conversation, and more stuff like that. I want to say off the bat, probably shouldn't be making this video. It is a direct follow-up to a video that I made breaking down some of the controversies that occurred at the Pokemon World Championships in Japan. Got a lot of responses on that, and I just wanted to clear some things up, okay? Because the fact of the matter is I wanted to make this video because I was wrong, not explicitly stating some of my positions, and I know that that's the case because I saw a lot of similar comments regarding, you know, my position on things and them just being incorrect. Wanted to clear that up. Before I do, I just also want to say to the regular viewers who watch my channel for VGC content, talking about genning, this is my last video. It's not going to be a regular series. I do like knowing that people are willing to watch a video which I'm talking to the camera, because that opens up other kinds of content that I can maybe do involving Pokemon. But don't worry, I really don't like being negative, okay? I wasn't trying to be negative in the last video. If anything, I'm trying to come from a place of understanding in people's positions. If you aren't aware, and if you aren't going to go back and watch that other video, effectively what happened at the Japan World Championships is that a lot of top-level players were disqualified a lot because they were hack-checked, and it was found that they had Pokemon, whether it was in their team or in their box, that were genned or were created by a software outside of Pokemon and then placed into the game. That is not allowed. That's not in the rule set. Here's what I'd love to clear up. I made that video talking about how, you know, that was the situation, and a lot of people got the impression that I think that genning should exist. I don't, okay? You know, not a lot of people stuck around to the end of the video, but I mentioned that genning isn't something that genners want to do. People who gen don't want genning to have to be a thing, right? I was just saying that I think I understand why people do it, right? Because the current system does involve a lot of grinding to legitimately make Pokemon. And I understand other people's viewpoints and that they might not have the capacity to do that despite having an interest and passion in Pokemon and playing VGC. And the other major thing that I realized a lot of people thought, I never explicitly stated it, right? People think that I was arguing that the players shouldn't have been disqualified. That's not true either. They broke the rules. The rules are you cannot gen your Pokemon. They did. They were warned in, you know, the rule set that you can't do that, and they did it, and they got caught doing it, and they were disqualified. I get that, and I think that is good. If people break rules, they should be disqualified. Now, not every rule is awesome. You know, there are laws you have to follow that you might think are silly or dumb and, you know, will come and go. But I don't even think that that's the case with this one. You know, I don't think that they should change the rules so that genning is allowed. I think that everybody should be able to access legitimate Pokemon. And what was a bummer about this situation, to me, again, they should have been disqualified. I agree with that. They broke the rules. Pokemon wasn't enforcing this across the whole season. And so I was just saying that I think it's a bummer that at this tournament, the last one, the one that people build their entire year around, and they work all year to get qualified for it, that at the finish line, they were disqualified, and because the rule was then enforced after not being enforced all year, right? And I'm going to equate it to something, and I want to just preface this by saying, I'm going to make an analogy right now. I'm going to make a metaphor. Metaphors and analogy inherently are not the exact situation. You're going to pick this apart in the comments, and that's fine. You know, I pick apart analogies and metaphors. I'm going to do it later, in fact, but I am aware of the fact that this is an analogy and isn't actually what's happening. But it's almost as if we're at like a soccer World Cup, right? A football World Cup, wherever in the world you are. And they haven't been enforcing handballs. And some players are starting to just grab the ball. And nobody's doing anything about it. And nobody's calling it. And so suddenly it's like, well, we're all going to start grabbing this ball, right? We're working so hard not to touch the ball with our hands, and other people are just grabbing it with their hand. And then in the final, they're just giving red cards to people who are grabbing the ball with their hands. And it's like, yeah, no, we know handballs are illegal, but it's almost as if you didn't know, like you weren't enforcing it. So all of a sudden it strikes me as unfortunate that now all these people who were grabbing the ball because it wasn't being called are now being disqualified. The thing that I also want to talk about right now is directly, I'm going to pull apart the metaphor before you can, so just don't grab your keyboard. Grabbing the ball with your hands in soccer is an advantage. To grab the ball with your hands and throw it in the net, that is illegal and also potentially makes you better at the game than somebody else, more likely to win a match than other people who aren't using their hands. I'm going to attempt now to break down specifically why I don't think that genning is cheating. It is against the rules. It is illegal, but I don't think that it's cheating. And please just listen to me say this before you start typing something. Cheating means that you're getting an advantage in the game over somebody else, right? But like it or not, nothing within the official VGC rules requires that the player piloting a team is the one who made that team. Now, it does say that you can't gen your mons, right? So if you have genned Pokemon, that's illegal and you get disqualified. If you have a full team of legitimately made Pokemon, you're good to go. But it is very much the case, and very often the case, that a lot of especially higher profile players have other people who make their teams for them legitimately, but then just get it to the person who's going to pilot it and whose name is going to be on the trophy at the end of the tournament. For this reason, the current VGC rule set does not value anyone's knowledge or patience in legitimately building teams when it comes to all of the skills required to be the winner of a VGC tournament. I understand that a lot of people are passionate about that part of the process. And I understand that it might be frustrating that that is not valued by the official rule set, but it's not my opinion there. That is the case. Of the skills you need to have to win a VGC tournament, knowledge, patience, effort into legitimately grinding mons is not one of the things you need. I also recognize that it might be the case that a lot of people assume that because you cannot gen your mons within the rule set, it also means that everyone is legitimately making their own Pokemon, but they do not check that. That is not something that any official would even be mad at. If they found out that, oh, this is my friend who made my team, they'd say, oh, awesome, nice to meet you. That, like, it's not against the rules. It's not illegal to use a team somebody else legitimately made. So at most, what you could argue is that to be a VGC champion, or to be very high placed in any given tournament, it is a requirement that you know what you're doing when you're legitimately team building, or that you have friends or a network or followers or somebody who does know what they're doing and is willing to do it for you. I mean, you know, how many people would actually be pumped to play through Legends Arceus if they knew that the one Enamorus available at the end that they were going to catch was going to be used on a Wolf Glick team, let's say, at an official tournament? It happens, and it happens a lot. People build teams for high-profile, high-skilled VGC competitors. Now, if that's upsetting because you're passionate about that part of it, but you want your name to be the one on the trophy at the end, and you think that it should be that Pokemon enforces that the individual piloting the team should also be the one that legitimately, somehow they would have to check that legitimately made their team. You know, I understand that, but I think we're all mad at the same systems here. It's not Jenners that you should be mad at. It's the fact that how things stand, a pilot of a team needs 6 Pokemon in front of them, and those 6 Pokemon have to have regulations, stats, spreads, and moves. And all that a VGC tournament measures is that once you've locked in your 6 Pokemon, and they're legitimate, however you received them, however you got them, you just need to now start winning games, and whoever wins the most and wins for the longest wins the whole tournament. And it's for this reason that genning is against the rules, but does not give you an advantage. You aren't allowed to do it, but it's not cheating. And against my better judgment, I'm going to use another analogy here. If Pokemon were to make it an official rule in this upcoming season that no one's allowed to wear green shirts. If someone wears a green shirt, they broke the rules and they can be disqualified. That's something that everyone will be aware of because it'll be in the rules. And when they get disqualified, it's over. And it's their fault because they wore green and it was against the rules. But does wearing a green shirt give you an advantage over somebody wearing a blue shirt? Not that I know of. People aren't going to get that analogy. They're going to say that genning is way more complicated. It is. It's way more nuanced. But I'm trying to break it down here. And to me, knowing what I know about the process of genning, what it gets you, and what other people do to get their teams, even if they're legitimate, to me it is that simple. And it's just not an advantage in a VGC tournament. And for the record, I don't have a problem with people who have friends or followers or networks that make their Pokemon for them. I know, if anything, and understand and am empathetic to the fact that people don't have time or the resources to make these teams themselves. That's my whole stance on this. I just don't think that, additionally, having a network should be a requirement for entry either. So maybe you are a person who is passionate about that side. And I want to be understanding to that as well, because again, people didn't see this part of the video, but I legitimately made my team when I went and played in the official Hartford Regional this past year, because I know how good it feels to have made a team. But it's like, is it Hemingway? It's like to have written is bliss, but writing is hell. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. To have made a team feels really cool. To be making that team is just a slog, man. And it is not something I'd have time for if I was doing this every month. If you are one of these people who is passionate about the team building side of it, and maybe you have fun doing it, it might not feel great to know that your effort isn't valued above many of the other things that requires a VGC player be good. And maybe you do wish that there was some way to check and require that every individual player be the one to create their teams legitimately. And maybe there should be, right? But not until the method of legitimately making a Pokemon is way faster, way easier, way more accessible. Because of the current grind necessary mechanics and the Series 4 rule set, including Pokemon not obtainable within Scarlet and Violet, what is required to be good at an official VGC competition in Series 4 is time, money, if not those things, as we discussed, a network potentially. You know, I don't think I ultimately disagree with many of the people who were commenting. Even if you feel like you have zero tolerance for genning, you know, I wouldn't call myself pro-genning even, but I do have tolerance for it. I understand it. But even if you're not that person, I hope that or some parts of what I said made sense to you, that they were understandable. And that being said, if you're someone who stands by the current amount of time and resources it takes to legitimately make a good, competitive, meta Series 4 VGC team, and you look at people who have jobs, who have kids or parents that they might provide for, who didn't come from backgrounds with financial stability at all and are only now in their adulthood getting onto their feet. People who might not have the ability physically, medically, to sit down for the amount of time it requires and devote attention, despite having the interest and passion for it, to make a VGC team. If you're somebody who looks at all of those people and says, well, maybe those people shouldn't be playing Pokemon in the first place, I'm not interested in you. Or your opinion. I'm just not. I think Pokemon should be for everybody. I think it's, you know, a game that's good for kids age like the second you can read, all the way up to how old I am now and probably for many years to come. I think that it's the best thing about the franchise. And I think that anybody who wants to get into VGC should be able to, with nothing but interest and understandably a Nintendo Switch and a copy of the game that the tournament uses. I know that you have to buy those things. Right. So in the comments, people are going to comment just some things to knock off your list before you go down there and just start saying stuff. We're at the end of the video now, so people probably aren't even going to get to this part. But things that aren't going to be worth it to me. First of all, if you're typing a whole text block, man, I'm not going to read everybody's essays. I cannot. There was over 300 comments on my last video. I can't do it. Okay, so I'll read the first couple of sentences, but just be aware if you're writing, you know, Moby Dick down there, I'm reading Call Me Ishmael, and that's going to be it. Are those the first words? Did I nail that? I hate reading. Another argument that I really just don't have any patience for, that I really won't entertain or you won't change my mind on, is one that I got a lot, which is if you are someone who has the time and money to fly to Japan, to go to all these regionals, go all over the country, to compete, then you also have the time and money to buy all these extra games that are required to have meta-defining mons, to legitimately make all your teams, to play through Legends Arceus despite it not having VGC in it, to get a Pokemon at the end that you might want to use on your VGC team. First of all, mathematically, if you spend money on a plane ticket to Japan, you have less money to spend on other stuff. If you are driving all across the country to get to regionals, you have less time to legitimately make a team. That's just some math. I don't think that VGC players are like the rich people you think they are. They don't even get a lot of money for winning the tournament. No one is a professional Pokemon player, and that's their only thing that makes them money. It's impossible to do that. Wolf Glick is the most well-known professional Pokemon player in the world, and it's because he does YouTube. But regardless of all of that, that's not the point. I'm not even talking about the people who were at Worlds when I'm saying it's annoying how much time and money you have to spend making a team. I'm talking about people just trying to get into it. The only way that this evolves as a community, as an esport, is if people are able to get into it in the first place. You need a base of players of interest, people who get more into it because of how accessible it is to anybody. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about, students, people who don't have these resources. It shouldn't be a requirement to be good at the game. I also am not going to entertain arguments about, don't complain. Pokemon is still better than fill-in-the-blank company when it comes to pay to win. Yeah, man. The flashlight is dimmer than the sun, but I'm not going to stare into a flashlight either. All companies should be good. Finally, it's just anybody who says, Pokemon has always been this way. You always need to buy other games to get the Pokemon. I think that right now it's worse than it's ever been. There's multiple games and DLCs that you need to get meta-defining Pokemon from that are unavailable in Scarlet and Violet. But also, just because it's always been this way doesn't mean that it's not bad. Still, you can still bring stuff up. I mentioned this in one of my comments, but teachers have always been underpaid. So we're just going to not complain about teachers being underpaid? They're underpaid. Pay them. Still. I still think that. That's going to be it for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I was just responding to so many comments, and I really am not going to respond to many of the comments here because I think I sort of was able to encompass everything I was generally feeling about comments as a whole into this video. But who knows? And I really do think that this is the last video I'm going to make on this topic. So thank you so much for sticking around this long. I do appreciate it. Again, I don't like being negative. I'd like to think I'm trying to be positive towards the people who are having a hard time playing Pokemon because of the current situation. That's all. I do still love Pokemon. Another misconception. I think a lot of people left thinking that I hate Pokemon or the Pokemon company. I don't. I, love them. And also think they can change in positive ways. Not everything's black and white here on the internet. I almost just said the internet.com. Hit the buttons on your way out and look forward to some VGC videos. I made a Cyclozar team yesterday. Go watch that. VGC, why we're all here. We all love it, don't we? Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody. Until next time, my name is Berm. See you later.